mode.
Well, good morning and good day. Welcome to the CIECA Cast. This is Fred Iantorno, Executive Director of CIECA. Today we have the second of an ongoing set of CIECA Casts that will provide a summary of the changes and additions to the Business Message Suite, the BMS. CIECA will present a CIECA Cast after each of the twice annual releases of the BMS. Today, Dan Webster will present the 2013 R2 release. I want to thank all of you for spending time with us and to Dan for sharing his insight and expertise with all of us. Please note that there will be a video recording and the PDF of the slides will be available within 48 hours of the broadcast. I will now turn this over to our presenter, Dan Webster of Mitchell International. Dan?
Thank you, Fred. Good day, all. So it is my privilege to be the presenter to take credit for what CIECA has accomplished on our Business Message Suite over the last half year. We've got new things going on in the renaming of the specification in all of the parts of it, and functional areas have made a number of changes. I'm going to briefly recap it. The code list, the schemas, and then we'll get into the changes by functional area. There's a lot to get through. Ready for the next slide? The name change, BMS is what everyone who works with the standard has referred to it as for a number of years. And I'm not sure everyone knew what the three letters stood for, but they now stand for Business Message Suite. The scope of our standards is much larger than messages now. So rather than just calling it a business message specification, we're calling it a business message suite with all of that entails, and you'll be hearing more about that as we go forward. Recapping the BMS, and if you plan to listen to all of these twice a year webinars, this might get old for you, but I don't know how many of you are here for the first time. So the introduction to the Business Message Suite is that it comes in a release package, including three different parts: a Word document, a spreadsheet with code list, and XML schemas. And as for the Word document, it is presented in various sections. And there's an index that can be used to find the section names. And the first section is an introduction. Second are the explanations and rules and definitions used for creating messages, aggregates, and elements. And we focus very much on the reuse of aggregates. So section 3 holds the aggregates which are used by messages in multiple sections. And then sections 4 through 18, 18 is a new one this time that I'm running a little ahead of the slides before you, are the sections of services that we provide. And each section has an introduction and presents the messages and functionality that is contained in that section. Each section has numbered subsections, and the first subsection contains the aggregates and elements used by more than one message in that section, and thereafter every other subsection is a request message followed by its response message. The sections 4 through 18 are shown here. We provide assignment services, estimate services, disposition services, attachment services, parts and material and repair order services, vehicle repair status service, authorization service, invoice, statement, and remittance service, location service, survey service, valuation service, title service, claim service, status service, and for the first time in 2013, Release 2, we'll have an appointment service. So BMS messages are augmented by, can you go to the next slide? at the very last, the messages are augmented by code lists that are used by the messages, and the code tables are provided in a separate Word document or spreadsheet document. So the first worksheet on the master code list table is an index of all the code list tables, and the code tables are either open or closed, where closed indicates all acceptable codes are listed, and open indicates the common code, but recognize there are other codes to be used as well. And the last worksheet is the change log. So when the CIECA architecture gets together for a twice annual QA meeting, this is a big focus of our effort to know that the member companies of our consortium all agree on what codes we're going to use for indicating the same thing. And with a list of 174 of these code lists, just managing them is difficult enough, but keeping them organized and correct is really a focus of our effort. Then using the, if you go to the next slide, Fred, the BMS and the code tables are then used to create our schemas. And the schemas are the actual technical documents in XML schema format that implementers use for validating and creating our schemas, or creating the implementations. And the conversion of the BMS to the XML schemas is a manual process, so we make sure everything we purport to be able to do in the Word document is the way it's organized in the XML schema. And then in the last couple of years, we've developed a tool to go directly from the code list spreadsheet to the enumerated codes that you will actually validate against when you're building a document. Currently, our technology is XML, but there's been exciting development on that front for the last year. And our XML is based on two different schemas. One does not contain the code list, so you're not going to get validation errors based on adding a new code or using different enumeration ahead of the standards work on the code. And the second one is strictified with actual codes embedded in the Word document where validation errors will result if you don't use them properly. So that is what the standards are, what you will find in a release package, and the changes that happened in 2013 R2 is what the next few slides will be focused upon. We've got committees that have a focus area within the problem domain that CIECA works, and the ones that have worked hard this release to come up with changes for the BMS primarily are scheduling, which created a new committee, met first thing on Monday, or at least in West Coast time it's first thing on Monday for 6 months or more to come up with new messages. Vehicle damage and imaging, which is has made a few changes we'll get into the details of. Salvage got together and made some changes, as did Subrogation, and recycled parts and inventory. Next, the scheduling committee is the newest one, and it developed 6 new messages that include an appointment inquiry request to request available times and locations for an appointment inquiry response to send available times and locations for the customer to choose, selected appointment add request to select the appointment and request confirmation of the appointment, selected appointment add response to confirm an appointment or to let the customer know the appointment time is no longer available, Appointment cancel request to request cancellation of a confirmed appointment. Appointment cancel response to confirm the appointment has been canceled or to respond if they cannot locate the appointment. The selected appointment add request can include a request to be picked up or dropped off if the vehicle will need to be picked up and if a rental vehicle is needed. These messages can be found in the new BMS section 18, which is dedicated to scheduling. There's not going to be an appointment change request message, as the process should be to cancel the appointment and start the schedule process again. So that's a little different from the existing message or all the other messages in the message suite, which have a add, change, and cancel message. To support these messages, multiple other BMS changes have been made. The entities they have added are found in the admin info aggregate and are the customer location site, appointment location site, and service provider. The customer and service provider are generic terms used when making appointments, and the implementation guide examples include these two entities, as well as other entities that can be used. The customer location site and appointment location site were added to aid in knowing the customer's location and to find the closest location for their appointment. The appointment event was added to the event info aggregate to communicate appointment being requested. And a new data type was added to BMS during the Architecture QA semi-annual meeting. It is a duration data type. It's currently being used by the Scheduling Committee and Vehicle Damage and Imaging Committee. So that's it for scheduling. The message functionality was significantly changed by vehicle damage and imaging in the assignment messages. The assignment add request message now has the ability to include times for an available appointment. The assignment add response message now includes added information to include confirmation of an assignment receipt, as well as a confirmed appointment time, provide additional parties, like the appointment location, and to send claim and policy information. The assignment cancel requests were changed to reduce the information required, as these are not needed in the cancellation of a towing assignment. However, more information is needed in the assignment cancel response message, which now includes dates and parties relating to the cancellation. The Vehicle Damage and Imaging Committee improved the towing messages and added keys location elements to the vehicle information aggregate, and also added a towing type. Examples being a heavy or light tow or a motorcycle tow. The committee also added the finished description to the paint in the vehicle information aggregate to provide additional information from the appraiser to the insurance carrier to understand the logic behind repair costs. To provide more information, changes were made on the vehicle damage line created when writing an estimate. The message is now capable of including multiple parts on a single damage line, multiple line item category codes like air conditioning, heater, labor, and blower motor on the same line, and multiple vendor reference numbers. Next is the invoicing for salvage billing and payment. This functionality was added to the invoicing section of the BMS. The invoice detail in a salvage invoice message will be in the same aggregate as all other disposition messages. It is the vehicle services aggregate. The needed addition made to the vehicle services aggregate reportable was to create a top-level code. Each detail expense reported will now use this service request type code to identify if the expense is a salvage or not. Those expenses that did not come directly from the salver are called advanced charges, which are paid by the salver. Typical advanced charge expenses are for the initial tow and storage before the salver picks up the vehicle. To make all this happen, a change to the BMS was made to move the disposition information to Section 3 so it can be used, and 3 is the common aggregate for those of you that don't know them by the numbers. But it was moved to Section 3, promoted, if you will, so it could be used by 2 different messages. The next committee making changes in this release of the message suite will be subrogation. There's a new subrogation message, which is the message exchange between the demanding party, the party that paid the damages on the claim, but their insured was not at fault, and the responsible party, the at-fault party. The message includes the ability to dispute information, share additional information, and propose settlement options. Included in the exchange is the ability to identify other responsible parties. Subrogation also expanded the ability for the demanding party to request status reports from the subrogation vendor by line of business. Next, the Recycled Parts and Inventory Committee continued to add functionality to the procurement messages. Return authorization requests and response messages were the new messages added when the repair facility wanted information from the parts provider regarding the parts they are attempting to return. The ability to add documents and send text along with the author when it was created were added to the procurement status information. The statement messages now have the ability to send three amounts: the amount due if you pay early, the amount due at the due date, and the amount due if you pay late. When sending a statement, the recycler now has the added information in the BMS definitions for some aggregates that were not concise in their definitions. The implementation guide business case, Appendix C, is now over 500 pages. So that's a lot of work for this committee and for the CIECA staff to keep up with them. Another thing we don't have on the slides was the kind of thing that typically happens in a QA session. We tried some sample documents of the towing assignments, for example. We entered a location with latitude and longitude and found out that negative longitudes, i.e. the ones you need for North America, were not valid. And so ever since we've added that location service, no one could have been complying with it without this fix we did to the schema this time. So that is the changes to the business message suite Word document. The next thing we focused upon was the code list. And when you look at the 2013 R2 code list spreadsheet, it will appear different. Column A will continue to have the code table name and a link to the code table, but column B will include a brief description of the code list, followed by the other columns from prior releases. The updated description will be on the index page and the code table itself. When you view the code tables themselves, you may notice some changes. Column A will still contain the code, and column B will still contain the code description, but column C and beyond now can contain notes from the committee to aid implementers. The most significant code table changes were again to the line item category code table. Again, because this was the biggest change in the first 2013 release package, an estimated 725 new codes were added, enabling companies to do enhanced data mining and accumulate frequently damaged parts and their costs by evaluating subsequent damage claims. The changes were again completed jointly with ARA, who uses the same codes for their application for recycled parts providers. The country code and currency code tables were expanded and now include 17 new countries, for example, Turkey and Spain, and 5 new currencies, for example, the pound sterling and euro. The culture code was also expanded, and it now includes 10 new cultures, languages like Italian and Dutch. The codes selected were from the ISO, the International Organization for Standards. Next, the document types and document subtype code tables, which defines and can further refine the intent of the messages being communicated. Changes were made for the scheduling committee. The scheduling committee also expanded the unit of measure code table to include minutes. And I think these are the time ones, Charlie, not the longitude one. The created new code tables, the service request code type used in their invoice message, as noted in the BMS changes noted a few minutes ago. Salvage also updated adjustment type used in communicating the adjustments to prices. The new code is charity, when the salvage provider, insurance company or rental company, donates the vehicles. Reporting auction and sale reporting is required for charity donations, but the offset to the money being sent to them is for the sale value. Salvage updated the payer type used in invoicing and remittance messages. These include the salver and salvage provider. Subrogation, for their part, added 2 new lines of business codes for surety and bond and commercial general liability. They also added a line of business to the request type code list to expand the type of status request made to the demanding parties. Recycled parts and inventory updated the payer type used in invoicing and remittance messages. These include PayPal. Recycled parts and inventory developed a release hold business case and added release hold to the procurement document type code list. Vehicle damage and imaging and procurement made changes to the procurement status code, changing it from a closed code list to an open code list. And that's the wrap for the code list. One thing that we talked about but won't be coming to you yet in 2013 was the distinction between closed and open code lists. It has become pretty blurred over the last few years, and CIECA, as soon as we practically can, will be just making one type of code list. I think we're going to call it open, but the idea is member companies are finding it necessary to make extensions to both closed lists and open code lists, and so there's really no distinction between them. Architecture, the committee that I co-chair with Kathy Goddard of Safe Light Glass, decided to develop standards for the workflow documents developed by the committee. The workflow guidelines have been developed by the committee. Workflows are being updated and expected to be completed by year end. What we're working on for next year is subrogation, service message for arbitration, and the Vehicle Damage and Imaging Committee is contemplating other messages and changes. Committees are developing their implementation guide, AppC business cases, and so what we're talking about is the committees get together, make the kind of changes that I've been listing for the last 20 minutes, and then you've got to make sample messages for them, and that's what these implementation guide appendices are. Appendices, excuse me. And once we make the appendices, we've got documents to actually test out against our spec and our schemas, and changes often result from that process. As you probably know, if you added things to these appendices or tried to use them to start a new implementation. Next. So I thank you for your time. It's nice to have the opportunity to have worked with CIECA and the member committees to get this work done, and I'm glad to be able to have presented it to you.
Well, thank you, Dan, and thank you to the audience for participating. I'd like to summarize the educational offerings for the first half of 2014. On January 7th, I will be presenting the new CIECA website, which I'm sure you'll, if you log on around January 1st, you'll get to see it. But I'm going to take members and non-members through it. On February 4th, we'll have one on subrogation. March 4th, and how does the CIECA implementation save or make your company money? April 8th, we're going to be talking about automated salvage disposition. On May 6th, what's new in the CIECA committees. June 24th, we'll have the 2014 R1 release package update. Also, I want you to know that the 6th Annual Implementation Conference will be held on September 8th through the 10th in Denver. I encourage you to save those dates and to join us. Again, I want to thank you for joining the CIECA cast today. Have a great day, and see you, and have a great Thanksgiving holiday to everyone. Bye now.